Good afternoon, guys. Today we are going to look at the concept of intercepts. Now, we've already looked at the Cartesian plane. And that is this graph. It's called the Cartesian plane. We've also looked at what a point is, right? And here I've got a point here, which is -5, 0. We always take the x value first, and then we put the y value. So if this is on the x-axis, then the value of y is going to be 0, because that is the origin, which is 0, 0. The value of x is -5, so we write it as -5, 0. We have another point here where the x value is on the y-axis. Therefore, the x value is 0, because I line it up with the origin to go up, 0, and the y value is 2. Here, the x value is 2, and the y value is 0. And on this point here, the x value is 0, and the y value is -4. All right, so those are the points of those two lines. Then we looked at connecting those points, which these points are connected to form a line. And then we looked at each line having movement, which is also equal to m, which equals to the slope of a line. Okay? So we looked at all of these. Now we are going to look at intercepts. And intercepts are very easy. Intercepts, all it means is where does the line cross the y-axis and the x-axis. Those are the intercept points of the line, where they intercept the x-axis and where it intercepts the y-axis. So intercepts are extremely simple, okay? So you're wondering, why are we talking about intercepts? Well, in order to understand what a linear equation is, and we will get to that in a minute, we need to understand intercepts, all right? So anytime there is a value of a point, so I'm going to give you a point, and if the value of that point is x equals 0, that would be the x value of the point, and y equals 5, okay, that is the y value, okay, the intercept of that, okay, when x is 0 and y is 5, the y-intercept is equal to 5. That is where that line is going to intercept the y-axis, okay? So whenever you have x equal to 0, then you know the y value will be the y-intercept. All right? Now the opposite is true. If I had 5, where that is the x value, and 0, where is the y value, okay? If you look at the Cartesian plane, when y equals 0 and x equals 5, okay, that is a point that crosses or intercepts the x-axis. So your x-intercept, when y equals 0, your x-intercept will equal the value for x, which is 5. Okay? That is intercepts. All right, that is the basis of intercepts. All right, So if we look at these two lines that I drew here, all right, we can visually see if I have a line that is represented by point 0, -4 and point 2, 0. We know that this is the x value. We know this is the y value. And we also know that this is the x value, and that's the y value of that point. Okay? So you can visualize what that line looks like. That's the line. And you can see that when x equals 0, all right, then we know what the y-intercept is. The y-intercept is the value of the y point. All right, so y is -4. So this, on this line, the y-intercept equals -4. And then you can see where it intercepts the x-axis. All right, whenever y equals 0, then that is the x-intercept point. So that would be the value of x in this point, which is 2. So when y equals 0, x, that's the x-intercept, equals 2. All right, you can see here that the line passes through the x-axis at point 2, 0, which is right here. And that is the x-intercept. It's where it intercepts the x-axis. And you can also see at point 0, -4, that is where that line intercepts the y-axis, where x equals 0, y equals -4. That is the intercept point of that axis. Okay? So, you're probably wondering, why in the world are we looking at intercepts? It seems so basic. Well, we have to understand intercepts to understand a linear equation. Okay? So a linear equation is any equation that has a variable of x, so I can say x, and it has a variable of y in it, plus y equals some number, we'll just say 2. This is a linear equation. And the reason why we call it a linear equation is that any equation that has a value of x and a value of y will result in a straight line when you graph it. That's why we call it a linear equation. Okay? So, when we look at linear equations, just another example of a linear equation, it doesn't matter where the variables are. I can play around with this. I can subtract y from both sides, right? So x equals 2 minus y. Well, that also is a linear equation because it has an x variable and a y variable. And actually, this equation equals that equation. I can also write it in a different way. Y equals 2 minus x. Here again, this is a linear equation because I have an x variable and a y variable. And those variables have to be by themselves. They cannot be squared. They cannot be cubed. It's just an x and a y. All right? And all three of these equations are exactly the same. All right? And what we can do with these linear equations is we can graph them. All right? So let's just take, for example, x plus y equals 2. Well, in order to graph a line, you need 2 points. All right? I need 2 points to be able to connect to show that line. So let's look at x plus y equals 2. So in order to find the 2 points, we want to find the 2 intercept points on the graph. And the way to do that, we know that an intercept is where that line crosses the x-axis and where it crosses the y-axis. Okay? And we just learned that the x-intercept is where y equals 0, and the y-intercept is where x equals 0. So in this equation, to find the intercepts, if I want to find the y-intercept, we know that the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So all we have to do is plug 0 in for x into this equation. So 0 plus y equals 2. Well, what does 0 plus y equal? It equals y. So y equals 2. So from this formula, we know that when x equals 0, y equals 2. So that gives us a point, right? And I'm going to put that in a little diagram here. So when x is 0, then y is 2. And that is a point. That point would be 0, 2. All right? Now, if we want to find the x-intercept, we know that y has to equal 0, right? Y equals 0. So what does that equal? Let's plug y equals 0 into this equation. So I have x plus 0 equals 2. Well, x plus 0 is x equals 2. So when y equals 0, x equals 2. And that's our second point. And each one of these is an intercept. Okay? So this 0, 2, when x equals 0 and y equals 2, that is our y-intercept. Right? That's our y-intercept. And our x-intercept is where y equals 0. So our x-intercept is the point 2, 0. Well, let's look at what that looks like. All right? So let's take these 2 points. We'll plot those on our graph here, and we will see what that line looks like. So where is x is 2 and x is 0 and y is 2? Well, x is 0 and y is 2. So there we have it. That is our point right there, 0, 2. That is our point. And that's our y-intercept. Then we have point 2, which is x is 2 and y is 0. Well, that's this guy right here, where x is 2 and y is 0. So that's our other point. All right? That is our x-intercept. And all we have to do to see what that line looks like is to connect these 2 points. So that line right there that we just drew, because we were able to get the y-intercept and the x-intercept, those are 2 points, and we connected those 2 points with a straight line. This line represents this equation. X plus y equals 2. That line is this equation graphed. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to give you guys a couple of problems that I want you guys to graph by finding the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So you set the equation to x equals 0. That will give you the y-intercept. And then to get the x-intercept, you have to set the equation where y equals 0 and find out the value of x. All right, the best way to do that is to form this grid right here. And you get your 2 points, you plot them on your graph, connect the line, and you will see how a linear equation looks like on a Cartesian plane and graphed. Okay? So here are your assignments. All right, what I want you guys to do is I want you to graph the following linear equations by finding the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay? So, I want you to do, number 1, x plus 5y equals 20. That is a linear equation. I want you to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, graph it, and draw the line. Second one is going to be 3x minus 2y equals 27. The next one is 7x plus 5y equals 12. All right. And then the last one is negative x plus 5y equals 10. So these are the problems that I want you to do. Now this assignment is for today and tomorrow. Okay, we will not have another assignment tomorrow. All right. So I want you guys to do this today and tomorrow. And if you have any questions, please ask. So I'm going to do one for you guys, just so you see how this works. I'm going to do one. Hopefully you guys have this. If you don't have it, you guys rewind the tape and look at it. So let's do this one. 3x minus y equals 6. Well, I'm going to set my chart here. And I know that the x-intercept is when y equals 0. And the y-intercept will be when x equals 0. Okay? So this is going to be the x-intercept. And this is going to be the y-intercept. All right? So all I have to do is plug the value of 0 in for y. So I have 3x minus 0 equals 6. Well, I'm going to add 0 to both sides. So that leaves me with 3x equals 6. To divide both sides by 3. So x equals 2. So I know that when y equals 0, x equals 2. And that is a point. 2, 0 is one of my points. Okay? So then I take the exact same problem. So I got 3x minus y equals 6. And now I need to plug 0 in for x to find my y-intercept. So I'm going to take that. I have 3 times 0, x is 0, minus y equals 6. Well, what does 3 times 0 equal? That equals 0 minus y equals 6. Okay, I'll subtract 0 from both sides. So I have negative y equals 6 But what I want is y, not a negative y. So I will have to divide that by a -1 to turn that into a positive y. And I divide this by -1. So y, negative y over -1 is y, equals 6 over -1 is -6. Because when you divide a negative and a positive, you get a negative. So my y value for the y-intercept is -6. And so my point for the y-intercept is 0, x is 0, and y is -6. So I'll take this information, I'll take my 2 points, and I'm going to graph those. So there's my Cartesian plane. This is the y-axis, x-axis, and this side is positive. Up here is positive. Over here is going to be negative for x, and down here is negative for y. So when x equals 2, 1, 2, y equals 0. All right? That is my x-intercept, right? This is where that line is going to cross the x-axis. Then I graph my other point, where y equals 0. I'm sorry, x equals 0, and y equals -6. So that's -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. All right? So this point is 2, 0. This point is 0, -6. This is my y-intercept. Y-intercept, and this is our x-intercept. All right? And all I have to do is connect these 2 lines with, or 2 points with a straight line. That is not very straight right there. Let me try that again. Oh, that's a terrible line, guys, but you know what I'm trying to do here. Drawing a straight line. So this particular line represents our equation. X, what was our equation? 3x, sorry. 3x minus y equals 6. That equation is this line on the Cartesian plane. So that's how you do those 4 problems that I gave you. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to give me a shout. Good luck with it. See ya.